harmful to others, thus by living according to the laws of karma or laws of causality.
So the Hindu simji nyamne yaujonglia kamdul nyamne mena simji nyamne mayamare.
So therefore, unless the individual practitioner has a good foundational experience or practice of taking refuge in the three jewels, it is not possible to have a high level of realization of bodhicitta or generation of the altruistic mind.
Today in Dusane, ta Jamdro Seadi, any Namba in the men, some the Jamdu shape.
Therefore, from the Buddhist point of view, the demarcation or the line that distinguishes between a practicing Buddhist and a practicing Buddhist and someone who is not a Buddhist is made on the basis of whether or not the individual has taken refuge in the three jewels.
Jamdu Seadi, music Zanic, Jamdu Tambalami Saru, Jamdu Shivini, Nijimi, Tishu Pension, and is in Navachavi was to make a mare. Consul some Nalolia, oh, Buddha Dharma Sangha, Ongonet and the Kebjiresha, Sabajic, Sem Nalolia, could be Teshibutuna, and Machare.
So when we talk about taking refuge in the three jewels, we should not have the notion that it involves a ceremony where you take the refuge from a master or something like that, and simply by participating in such a ceremony, you become a Buddhist. That's not the point. The point is, if even without a master, if you, as a result of your own reflection, become fully convinced in the validity of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha as the true ultimate object of refuge, and then entrust your spiritual well-being in these objects of refuge. And that's the point when you become a Buddhist. You have taken refuge in the three jewels. Whereas if, even though you might have participated in a ceremony, but if there is any doubt in your apprehensions, in your mind about the validity of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha as being ultimate objects of refuge, that very suspicion or doubt sort of rules you out from being a practicing Buddhist. Therefore, for a practicing Buddhist, it is important to understand who these objects of refuge are, or what these objects of refuge are, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha.
Buddha said, Mijik, Shidawachi Kanlia, and the Shakiman Buddha, the Jalia Kutam, and Zabaze, and Yangan Tading, that the Kansa Chik Chanlia, quite memory, Buddha's lived to talk away and then that she.
So when we speak about Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and when we speak particularly about Buddha, we should not confine our understanding of the term Buddha only to the historical person who came to India, who taught a certain spiritual way of life and so on. Rather, our understanding of the concept of Buddhahood should be based on levels of consciousness or levels of spiritual realization. So it is a spiritual sort of state of being that has to be understood. So therefore, we can, in Buddhist scriptures, we can speak about past Buddhas, Buddhas of the past, Buddhas of the present, and Buddhas of the future. So the question now is to try to develop an understanding. How does a Buddha come into being? How does a fully enlightened being come into being?
Da Buddha says, "Yong da mayong, si de masiyadi, chekunjo tanda da tobare. Chekunjo says yana, kindukunjo yungu yari, kindukunjo says yana, da pangchang munju panyaji yungu yana, pangchang tenji sabinjo panyaji yungu ri. Diyomba yina, ane dajomba yungu ri, sangye yungu ri. So there is song in the zane, that's our chekunjo toya. Chekunjo is the condition that is shekunjo.
So when we think about Buddhahood, certainly we will be reflecting upon the question of whether it is possible for an individual to attain such a state or not, or to become a fully enlightened being, to become a Buddha. So here we find that the key really lies in understanding the nature of Dharma, because if Dharma exists, then certainly Sangha will exist. Sangha members who will have engaged in the path of the Dharma and have realized and actualized Dharma. And if the Sangha members exist, Sangha with the realization of Dharma exist, who have reached stages of levels of spiritual states where they have overcome at least gross levels of negativities and afflictive emotions. If that is possible, then we can envision the possibility of attaining total freedom from these negativities and afflictive emotional states. And that state is the Buddha. So we find here that the key really lies in understanding the nature of Dharma. So when we talk about the Dharma jewel, then here, of course, we are talking about the two dimensions or the two aspects of the Dharma. One is the path that leads to cessation, and one is the cessation itself, cessation of suffering and afflictive emotions. So when we are talking about Dharma here, I think one has to be able to make a distinction between the usage of Dharma as a kind of a generic term, which covers also the scriptural Dharma as well. And this is the generic term is the sublime Dharma, which refers to the Buddha's teaching as well. Whereas when sort of the Buddha's teaching and the realizations that are based on the practice of this scriptural Dharma. But whereas when we are talking about Dharma within the context of the three jewels, we are talking about the Dharma jewel here. Here, Dharma should be understood in terms of cessation, true cessation, or the paths that lead to that cessation. Because it is only on the basis of understanding the true cessation and the path leading to that cessation, then we can have some concept of arhatship or state of liberation. Therefore, in one of the sutras, the sutra known as the Pratityasamutpada Sutra, Buddha stated that whoever perceives the interdependent nature of reality, the dependent origination, the principle of dependent origination, sees the Dharma. And whoever sees the Dharma sees the Buddha, or the Tathagata. So when we try to understand this statement of the Buddha in the scripture, whereby he states that whoever perceives the interdependent nature of reality perceives the Dharma, and whoever perceives the Dharma perceives the Buddha. If we were to approach this scripture from the perspective of the Nagarjuna's teachings of Madhyamaka school, then one could say that we can arrive at perhaps the most comprehensive understanding of the implications of that statement. So when it comes to talking about the philosophical viewpoints of Nagarjuna. Even if people were to criticize me that I'm perhaps biased towards it, I would certainly accept that criticism.
Today, this is the tension of the the petit sadigi, the temperature, Sumupan said Juan. That tension of Juans. That the tension of Juan said that the Niala Tumu, the Kareslamna.